Thank you for tuning in to the Natty News Daily podcast. This episode is brought to you in part by our sponsor, Core Nutritionals. You can check out corenutritionals.com for all your supplement needs and use code Natty News Daily at checkout to save 20%. Enjoy the episode.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Natty News Daily Podcast. This certainly isn't a recording just because I botched scheduling a guest. It certainly was planned out, and it certainly is not just going to be me and Dan talking shop for however long we want to. But yeah, so you can tell prep brain is in full effect. I thought I had scheduled someone for this Friday, and it was for next Friday, and Dan showed up anyway, and we're just going to talk and you guys are going to listen and hopefully enjoy it. Dan, how you doing?
Doing all right, doing all right. How about you? You're the one that's feeling the prep. You're both in prep. But you're the one that's you're feeling it.
Honestly, people keep asking me that because like if you look at it on paper, like I have been dieting for a very, very long period of time. I only started feeling like any sort of prep symptom when I hit like the 170 threshold, which was only 2 pounds ago. So we're looking at like 3 to 4 weeks probably that I've been around there. Um, so not bad. And I tell people all the time, like the bodybuilding side of my life is the easiest part of my life. So if all I could do was just train and eat, it'd be great. It's all the other things. And that's where I'm like scatterbrained when I try and schedule, I'm supposed to be a guest on 2 podcasts. We're trying to record episodes. I'm trying to grow a business, be at 2 different offices, be a father, lawnmower broke, like scheduling repairmen to come. Like it's just there's too many moving parts right now, and even using an online calendar, I can't get it right.
Yeah, you always are being pulled in a million directions or make yourself pull in a million directions. I feel that though too.
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
often the same way.
Well, I mean, you've got a lot of things going on too, right? Like with your actual day job, with your bodybuilding, which you like are very, very regimented with. We know that, and like with your resale business and all the different things. So yeah, I mean,
I
there's
have a house too, so caring for
yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It's all the little things people don't understand, like that in itself, home ownership. Man, we can make a whole podcast based on that. There's always
yeah.
something breaking. There's always something you need to do. If it's the winter, you're shoveling. It's the summer, you're mowing. And right now, this time of year, I gotta mow like twice a week to stay on top of it, really.
I should mow twice a week, but I don't care enough to mow twice a week.
Man, it drives me crazy, mainly because I did so much mowing growing up. I can't stand when my yard is out of control, but my lawnmower's been broken for 2 weeks, so it is a jungle outside right now.
I haven't cut my back in probably like a week and a half. So yeah, which actually it doesn't look that bad. It looks bad, but to my standards, it's like it's a little high. But
Manageable. Small animals can't hide in it just yet.
I've been seeing lots of groundhogs in the back and bunnies and stuff. So they've
There
been
you go.
enjoying it. So
Yeah.
but
Hey, it's good. Do you push mow, right? Because you only have a small lot, or do you have a riding tractor as well?
I have both. So I usually
Okay.
push mow the front just because it's a little easier and cleaner, especially like around edges and stuff like that. And then I have a tractor that I do in the back. No, I've got about 3/4 of an acre. So
Okay. I was gonna say,
push
I mean,
mowing
there's
would be awful if I had to
yeah.
push mower the whole thing. It would. I've done it once or twice. It was like a 2 hour endeavor.
Yeah, there's your expenditure. Who needs cardio when you've got, tasks to
Yeah.
do around the house, all the weed whacking that I do and all the push mowing and
That's
everything.
actually something I actually leverage though, is that like, okay,
Hmm.
I can get like, I don't even know how many steps I get in a push mowing session to just cut in my front yard. It's like 2,500 steps or something like that. So like for me, that's like perfect.
Yeah.
Um, a perfect way to just get some steps in. And it's actually nice because I cut the grass and then like I get in, I shower, I eat, and I'm like, my steps are basically almost done for the day. I'm like, this is great. Rather than like, some days where I'm like, get to like 6 p.m. I'm like, I'm at 4,000 steps. I need 8,000. So I start either going for a walk or like I start pacing around my house and like scrolling my phone, making posts while pacing.
Yeah.
I try to multitask. Um,
Yeah.
and I
But
like to
it's
be busy too. Yeah.
yeah, it's a smart way to do it, right? I've done the same now as the weather gets better, taking the girls on walks, taking the dog on a walk, right?
Yeah.
Serves multiple purposes. Gets the kids outside so they're not going crazy inside. Tires the dog out so he's not biting everybody. and it helps me get some steps and expenditure in. So yeah, it's smart, right? Like if we know there's certain things that need to be done, maybe there's ways to do them more efficiently, but maybe I don't necessarily want to do it more efficiently. Like I might push mow more of my yard right now just because it's like, well, I'm losing weight and I'm getting the same job done. But
Yeah. Yeah, it's like multitasking. You're like cutting your grass and you're knocking off two birds with one stone, right?
you
You're
got
knocking
it.
off your steps. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Always a way. There's always a way. It doesn't have to be the
Yes.
traditional way to lose weight. And that's kind of, I think, what I'm leaning into more so now than like, all right, I'm just gonna do my tasks and then hop on the treadmill for 40 minutes. I still do some treadmill sessions, but if there's a way not to, I'm gonna do it for sure.
That's why I like this. I like the step tracking method so much better than structured cardio, just because of
Mhm.
that. Because
Yeah.
it like the methods of cardio are so much more enjoyable, and like yeah, you can do other things with it. Like there's just so many, and it's way more predictable too. Like just
Mhm.
okay, I'm gonna hit like 8K steps every day. Like if I'm at like 8 to 8.5 every single day, it's like my expenditure, like, yeah, it can vary a little bit, maybe here and there, but like it's pretty damn consistent. Like, rather
Mhm.
than being like, okay, I'm just gonna do structured cardio, but some days, if your steps are at 2K versus like 6K plus structured cardio, and then your expenditure output is all over the place, right? I think it's
Mhm.
just way more measured, consistent, and it's just better. I'd rather, go for walks and than
Yeah.
sit on a treadmill
And
personally, or
even when I
pace around my
am,
house.
yeah, that one, I've done that one before too. Not as much in this
I
house,
do
but
it a lot, but yeah.
last prep in the townhouse, I would do some laps listening to some podcasts or something like that.
Usually I'm just like making posts on my phone or something like that. Whenever
Yeah,
whenever I make a post, it's like, yeah, I was probably either walking outside or pacing around my house while doing that. So
yeah, probably. And even when I do the treadmill cardio now, it's not even like Leroy assigns a time and
yeah.
I know the parameters I use that weren't necessarily assigned, but I also know like in the time allotment that he's given, which hasn't changed in a while, I know how far I should be getting, which is right at like 2 miles. So even
Mm,
when I go outside, it's like, all right, like maybe I'm walking slower, so I'm not going to go based on the time because I'm probably going to walk faster on a treadmill than I am just leisurely outside on the road. But if I go 2 miles, doesn't matter how fast I did it, it's still the same expenditure.
yeah, should be roughly the same.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, so I'm feeling okay. We'll leave it at okay. What about you? How's prep been going? Seems like you hit like an initial like massive weight loss streak there, and then things have started to taper a little, but definitely looking pretty clean right now.
Yeah, things have slowed down a little bit. We've kind of we've barely made any adjustments food wise. Like I'm still eating. Well, actually, yeah. Technically, I found out a few days ago that I've been overeating for like a month and a half by like 100 calories. I was like, oh, my numbers were actually 100 calories lower, but we hadn't made an adjustment, so things were moving okay.
Mhm.
But uh, for consistency, I ended up moving to what my number should be, which is still like 2750 calories on training days. Um, so like yeah, but
Nice.
I've been eating like 2850 for yeah, pretty long time. And yeah, I'm like 181 now. So
Mhm.
um down whatever, that's
what's your
17 pounds.
estimated? Yeah, that's impressive in itself because it doesn't like 17 pounds is a hefty chunk. And you didn't really have
Hmm.
to do much to get there, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been at it for, a good bit of time, but yeah, it's just been kind of falling off pretty quickly. I'm never one that I tend to not be someone that needs a ton of adjustments, and my food typically doesn't get super low in general, but um, that's kind of high. I'm just like, oh, like we're still moving and food's still kind of high. But
Hmm. I
did
think
you
it
ask
goes
a
to
good
show how
question there
much
too?
I was about to ask, like what your target stage weight you think is going to
Oh,
be,
it's
or what
target
you guys are
stage
kind
weight
of
you did.
planning for. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be um I I think it's gonna be sub 170. I think as long as I get sub 170, I should be good enough. But I think like close to like 165, I think it's gonna be pretty good. Maybe I dig a little bit further. I don't know, but yeah, I think like given my current look, I think another I'm like 181 now. I think another 15 pounds off of me now would be pretty good.
Yeah. I hate doing those numbers because I mean, you know how body fat comes off of me. There is just no way to know and no way to guess because I haven't been there with my quads yet.
Yeah.
It's that's my big stressor right now. Like I refuse to get back up on stage without my quads separated. They're just now showing life. I think did I send you the photos or just Leroy from this week?
I think just Leroy this week.
I'll send them over or here I'll do it now. We can have a live reaction. Like there you can start to see the outline of like all the different aspects of the quad, but
Yeah.
like just separated isn't enough, right? Like I
Do
really want to
your
get
what comes in first for you, quads or hamstrings and glutes?
it's funny because I don't even know. Like I don't think
Yeah.
I've ever really got lean enough. Like my hamstrings right now, I would say are more conditioned than my quads. I just have trouble kind of like showing them a bit. I don't think I have like the most well, I don't know, like you know you see those hamstrings that are like I call it like Thanos's head. Like it's all like wrinkly and they're like very linear. I honestly
Yeah.
don't feel like mine are shaped in that way. Or like you can very much see like the medial aspect of my quads outlined right now, but that like
Yeah.
outer sweep is just very much flat. But I'll be interested to see what that looks like when I diet down
Yeah.
even
My
more.
glutes and hamstrings are a lot later, usually come in for me. Quads are usually coming before my glutes and hamstrings.
Yeah. And when it comes to like the glutes, there are photos from I believe it was, yeah, it was my 2019 prep where like my upper glutes are like striated, but the lower glutes and hamstrings are just still soft. And the quads kind of came in that time, but not all that much. So it's
Yeah.
kind of a guessing game, honestly, at this point of like at what point will those come in,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is not a fun game to
You'll
be
find
playing.
out. Yeah. If
Yeah,
you
I'm
got
sending
time
over
though, it's like,
some of the quads.
are you gonna share
Yeah,
a screen share it?
no, I'll just send them to you so you can live. Got to keep some
You can
secrets, even though
live react.
Leroy posted me on the story anyway. Yeah, so that's my big thing now. It's like you look at it, and I'm 167, 168 on average this week. Prior stage weight was 165, and I'd say I'm probably better conditioned now than I was on stage for sure. Our initial target was 158, pretty much like break 160, and we should be good.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm just thinking, like, man, another 8 pounds sounds like a lot, but I'm concerned it's not enough. But at the same time, I probably only have like, there's not much fat left on the upper body, right? Like fractions
Yeah.
of a
Yeah.
pound,
You got
probably.
nothing left in the upper half.
So like those 8 pounds will probably all be coming from the quads, hamstrings, and glutes, I would imagine. Maybe like 1 pound from the upper body across those eight,
What'd you say your body weight is right now?
like
I'll just pull up your
167 and some
photos.
change, 168. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I'd have
like
to
10.
see from the. I'd have to see. Are you rec fem popping there?
Maybe.
Probably not. That's something
It's
you'll probably need to work on
yeah, it's really
because
challenging
it's
for me to
something
get the
that like
quads coming through.
yeah, because it's an isometric popping.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I look at this and I'd say it's about. I'd have to see your glutes, but I'd say that's about 12 pounds away,
Yeah,
give or take. I think yeah, 12 to I'd say it might be 15.
no, that's the thing. It's
Because
such
I'm
a
looking at
hard
it like
guess.
because I have the same thing, and that's similarly pretty similarly separated to how I am now, and I'm looking at another 15, so
Hmm.
that's where I would assess it. But
It's gonna
yeah,
hurt.
you're even like I'm definitely very bottom heavy fat wise, but you might be even more extreme than me.
Yeah. Well, like I could have competed physique a month ago, 2 months
Yeah,
ago, like the discrepancy between my upper half and my lower half is just stupid. And I'm going to try and rectify that this off season. I really think if I stay leaner, I'm going to get some body recomp and redistribution of fat as it comes back on. I would just have to hope so because, man, it's just how much can you
yeah,
dig to try and bring the legs in without losing your whole upper body?
Yeah, I think to a certain degree, you're probably always going to fight that battle a little bit. I think for you, or just for anyone, I think yeah, maxing out how muscular you are in those areas definitely helps. The
Mhm.
thing is, those are your more muscular areas, but same with me. Like my legs, especially my quads, my glutes are my most muscular areas, right? So
Mhm.
like, um, but that doesn't for me that doesn't necessarily mean, and for you too, that doesn't necessarily mean they're, even though they look like your more muscular areas, they're not necessarily maxed out or as close to quote unquote maxed out
Mhm.
as your other body parts, because they might have a higher overall potential anyways.
Right.
So but carrying more muscle in those areas definitely I think would be, I think that's what I would try to do. Like, okay, can I really add as much tissue um into my quads, into my glutes, into my hamstrings?
Mhm.
That's kind of what I was, and I know you did a lot of that. Like, especially you look at like you start doing targeted work. Like, okay, I'm going to make sure my rec fem gets trained. Um,
Mhm.
I'm going to make sure, like for me, I made sure like I did regular glute med training. Like, okay, I need to max out like each subsection of my legs rather than just, it's typical. Okay, let me just train quads, glutes, and hamstrings. Let's
Yeah.
break out some more regional stuff like we do for like, and people are gonna say like, oh, don't overcomplicate things, but we do the same shit for delts. Like you break it up into three heads. Like,
Delts,
but
the lats.
the
Yeah.
glutes are very similar to the delts in the way that they function. The shoulders very
Mhm.
similarly functional to the hips. So like there's a lot of heads to the, you could say there's a lot of heads to the glute, right? The glute
Yeah.
med, min, max, upper glute, lower glute, like,
Yeah.
and I think
And
I
and
think
I'm
that's coming in more into vogue, that like to separate things, because maybe a decade ago everyone was kind of making fun of, people for separating like upper pec, lower pec, like that sort of thing. But I think there's more
yeah, people are
to
understanding a
that.
little bit better. And I'll be honest, like I have
But
never done direct glute training just because I hold so much, and now I'm realizing I need to, right? Because I see how much is there and how
yeah,
minimal actual muscle is. But when I am in my off season, I hold so much fat through my glutes where
same.
it's like, do I need to add more? Like, holy crap, like I won't find pants that fit. It's already a challenge. But now it's like, all right, for bodybuilding, like I gotta do it because when you start shaving down the layers of fat, like, well, it's not a defining feature. Where in my off season, it almost seems like it would be, but it's kind of this like
Yeah.
false sense of size of the muscle.
Well, even if they are relatively muscular, it's still like if it's not, striated and detailed,
Mhm.
it just doesn't hit the same, right?
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, the more muscular you can be, though, the better the condition's going to show. I really truly believe that. So,
Oh, I've
um,
seen it. I've seen it for sure, just across the board with just about every muscle. But yeah, you're right. I did a ton of quad specific training. And that's simply because I did the opposite. So 2019 felt like my quads were a strong suit. Didn't, well, no, not 19. So the last competition season, I really didn't emphasize my leg training all that much because I know I'm weak in my upper body. So it was all like, I just got to hammer my upper body. And then you get on stage and you're
yeah,
like, all right, my upper body came up, but now my legs look kind of weak, especially when you stand next to someone like Alec, right? You're like, man, I got to bring the quads up. Like I can't just bring up just the upper body
yeah,
to match. Like I just got to get bigger everywhere. So this off season was like, how do I blow up my chest and my quads were the two like main
yeah,
emphasis, and then everything else kind of came up with it.
yeah. And
And
your
then
chest, I think, was your most improved area.
Yeah,
But again, it's tricky because it's like, especially if it's a strong body part for you, like it's like do I really need to like really prioritize bringing this up when it's a strong muscularity wise, but
yeah.
like eh,
I think I
but
only have two muscle groups that anyone would ever look at me and say like, "Wow, that's impressive," and that's my delts and my hamstrings, and specifically hamstrings from the side, right? So I think
yeah,
anything else
your
is
ham
fair
drop
game
is
for me
yeah,
to want or need to bring up.
yeah. But I think some people get too carried away with being like hyper balanced and like, I don't know, man, like exploit the things that are you know, that are
Mhm.
really strong in their physique, I think.
Yeah.
Like you see people that will like say, I have such a strong XYZ body part. Um, and then they allocate very little number of sets or very little volume, very few number of sets to that body part. So it's like, oh, well, it's still growing, but it's like, I don't know, like if you can really have a really standout body part, that makes a big difference.
Mhm.
Like I think of the example of Doug Miller, like he's obviously very muscular in general, but dude, his arms are ridiculous,
Mhm.
ridiculous. Like his arms are what makes him look freaky. But like, would it make sense for him to back off on arm training and just like not train his arms because they're so like quote unquote ahead of everything else? Like, no, that's what made him ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
he hits
Yeah.
that hands on hips most muscular or like, a back double bicep, and it's like that's just it just blows everyone away, right? Like you could do that, especially like with quads. You can definitely do that with a lot of body parts. But yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
don't think
I
as a
think
natural you're gonna get so if you're developed, right? Like if you are developed
yeah,
across the board and you have experience in the gym, I don't think you're gonna get to the point where one muscle just outclasses the others to the extent of actually losing points and scoring, in my
yeah,
opinion. Some judges
I
might have a
agree.
differing opinion. Like on the enhanced side, yeah, like we've seen some athletes, right? Like where it's just what do they call that guy? Like neckzilla, right? Like first off,
Yeah,
massive neck, but also his quads are just enormous to the point of maybe
yeah,
detracting from his upper body. I don't see that happening. Think of, like you said, like Doug Miller. It's not that the rest of his physique look bad because his arms are so big, or, shoot, Bada. Bada's got massive quads too. The rest of
yeah,
his body still looks fine, right? Like it's not like
yeah.
they detract from the whole thing.
They
Guy's a world
don't.
champion. So,
Well, that's
yeah.
and if you look, I think like Bada and Mishak. Mishak has ridiculous like delts and arms that are just so full and round.
Mhm.
And then Bada obviously is very strong up top, but his legs, I mean, his quads are absolutely ridiculous. But
Mhm.
that's where Bada can beat Mishak, and that
Yeah.
has happened where they've traded. We saw in the 2022 year they traded where Mishak beat him at Mr. America, beat Bada, and then Bada beat him at USBF.
Yeah. The American champions or whatever their big show is. Yeah. I forget what
Yeah,
it's technically called.
yeah. I think the U.S. championships. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I don't remember
I
that,
think
but it
that's
was
it.
their world show. But I mean, like I just saw photos of that, but you could see it was won in the legs by Bada. I think that's where he won. So it's like if you have a stand-up body part, it's if you have a really strong body part, I don't think it can be too strong. That's kind of my opinion, natural body. But I think if you have a weak area, yeah, like that probably needs that's where things get noticeable. But if
Yeah.
something's super strong, I don't think it becomes overpowering. That's just my
No.
personal take, though.
No. Plus, you probably enjoy training that muscle a little bit more if it's already strong. And at
Yeah,
the end of the day, you just want to enjoy your training too. Like, yes, we're competitive athletes, but like, you just got to go for what you love and enjoy because it's going to let you keep doing it. Right. And I'm to the point now with my legs just from fatigue, but it's like, I know I need to do it. I know I need to bring them up, but I don't enjoy my leg training as much right now. Where my chest, because I've seen so much improvement, now I'm enjoying
yeah,
that because it's like now I have momentum. Now I know that I can grow like a bigger chest. And I love my push days, where it used to be my least favorite by far.
yeah, yeah.
I know
But
some people are like you and are just robots and will do whatever it takes to be the best athlete they can be, but I gotta motivate myself a little bit.
yeah, for me, it's like I'm going to enjoy the things that are the most productive. That's
Yeah.
like
You're
that.
very analytical about it.
Those
Yeah.
two go hand in hand. Like if I can see, but I think you see it too, though. Like, because even though your chest has come up a lot, it's not your strongest body part still. But you're seeing that there's an affirmative aspect to like what I am doing is working, and that
Yeah.
makes it enjoyable. Like, and like at least when I think like if I'm confident that something I am doing is moving in a positive direction, it's just so much better. And that goes for bodybuilding, that goes for anything. It's like if I can see like this thing that I'm doing is productive and putting me in a good path, like I'm going to like that's where I'm like, this is great. This is awesome.
Yeah.
That's like
It's
the flow state.
yeah, it's validation of your effort, right? Because what we do takes
Yeah.
a lot of time, takes a lot of energy, takes a lot of patience. So to like see it happen, yeah, it's not like hockey. You learn a new trick, you deke around someone, you score. You're like, okay, that was cool. Now let's learn the new thing again. Bodybuilding is a very, very, very slow sport. So
Yeah. But
yeah,
I
I
think
would I
that's
would
why
agree
the
with you.
prep side of things becomes so fun because it's so affirming. It's like every week you can see, wow, I see this now. Wow, I see this now. Like what I've been doing on the diet side
Mhm.
is revealing this. And it's like it's so positively reinforcing and affirming the, most of the way. I wouldn't say maybe the whole way because the end, you can get to the point where you get stringy and flat, and especially if you're trying to dig out areas, which we already talked about.
Yeah.
But then again, you start looking at your legs, like, oh, I got detail on my legs, like, oh, I got glute striations. Like
Mhm.
when I started seeing glute striations, like a few pounds ago, like those real light, really light. I was like, now it's on.
I'm still waiting. I can see some separation from the side, but that's as far as we made it so far. But
Yeah.
it'll come.
Are you doing any like glute med training or anything like that or no?
No, my training right now is so all over the place anyway. We're like adding in more volume at this point.
Yeah.
I gotta get my schedule a little more standardized. I'm getting 4 good sessions in. I probably could add a little bit of glute training in like to my lower day right now because I just have one lower day. But yeah, I think at this point the length of time I've been in a deficit, the deficit I'm in, I don't know how productive. I mean, yes, it's a novel stimulus, but I don't know how much it would do rather than just like add to the toll of the total volume across the week.
A little glute med work probably wouldn't do much, but yeah, that's it. Yeah, you probably would add tissue, but um, yeah, it's still a question of adding to what you have existing. Is it worth
Yeah.
it at this point in time?
Yeah. And that's a
So,
question we
but
probably can't answer, right? Like you don't know until you do it. So I mean, yeah, what's it gonna hurt to throw in like 2 sets of direct glute work? Probably not that much.
yeah, yeah, but
We'll find out. Maybe
yeah,
I'll do it. And when I
yeah.
have striations, it'll all be because of Dan. Those
Maybe,
2 sets
yeah.
a week he advised me to do.
This hip abductions just
Yeah.
doing the trick.
You,
But
you got it. You got it. Yeah. So and you're
but
how many weeks out are you at this point?
what is it? 14. Ontario's like
You're
14
four
and
yeah.
about
How many
14 now,
is it
which I
14? I
feel
thought it was
so
a little bit.
close.
It
I think it's
does,
14
honestly.
now.
I gotta double check because I'm 1 week after you after that one. So we're what?
That's
One,
Romania, which I'll
yeah,
probably do
one,
too.
13, 14, 14, and then
In a
actually, yeah,
day.
14 on the dot is the Friday. So it'd be like 13 and a peak for Ontario.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's the other thing to think about is it's 13 and a peak.
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like I'm
Ruh-roh.
tight on time.
I know, that's what I'm
Things
thinking. When you
things
when
are
you say
moving.
like 8, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah. And I know I don't need to be need to be. That's the first show of my season, so I can always dig further from there. Because I'm doing Mr. America, like that's 4 or 5 weeks after that. I
Yeah.
think 5 weeks after that. So like I want to come in really sharp for that too. But I also, want to be very good at Ontario.
Mhm.
Be close. But
Yeah.
yeah, I look at 14 weeks like that's I know I'm like on pace, but it's just that feels close, man.
It
That feels
does.
close.
Yeah, when I say like when me and Lee were talking about like, oh, we got to lose like another 8, it's like, yeah, 8 in 14 weeks, no problem. But if it's like if that 8 turns into 10 to 12, now we're fighting. Now we're grinding the last couple weeks for sure. Because it's been relatively low intensity right now. Like my calories haven't changed all that much. We actually increased my refeed 2 weeks ago because I'm like sporadically losing like 2 pounds out of nowhere. I'll lose like just shy of a pound, just shy of a pound, 2 pounds. And it's like, well, okay. But
Are you refeeding weekly?
yeah, Saturday refeed weekly, and we have
Okay.
been pretty much from the get-go. And
What do
it's
your
actually
numbers
gone
look
up.
like in general?
I think my refeed is your regular training day. I'm at like 2,700 on a refeed. It's slightly lower protein on that day. So it's like 185 protein, 375 carbs, and 50 or 55 fat. I'd have to look. And then on my regular days, I'm at 20,050 calories. So it's 205 protein, 215 carbs, and 45 fat, which
Is
seems
that your low
low.
days? Those your quote unquote low days?
Yeah, that's 6 days a week right now of the 2,000 pretty much calories.
Okay.
And
I was gonna
that's
ask if you had difference between your training, not training, but yeah, you're just running.
no, we started doing something like that, and it doesn't work for my schedule because I don't know what my training days are going to be, and I might not know
Yeah.
until later in the day. So just with how variable things are, it was better just to keep the calories standard, except for that one high day, which is always on Saturday. And I
Okay.
try and utilize that to the best of my ability on like either a hard training day or have a hard training day the day after the refeed. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not a big fan of altering the calories across the week with someone like myself, just because I don't think I've trained
Yeah, with a
consistently
variable
on every
schedule.
single
Yeah.
day. Yeah, and it was just too much stress. So, and those, I mean, someone hears like 2,000 calories 14 weeks out, and they're like, oh my gosh, like it's so low. It's really not for me. Like I might have finished my last prep at like 1,800. Prior preps have gone way lower than that, but I don't know. I feel relatively comfortable doing it. Like I'm getting a little bit hungry right now, but I'm also not someone who's eating like 4,000 calories in the off season. I just don't like my expenditure's not there to need that.
Yeah. No, 2000 doesn't seem like out of bounds for me. To me. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said,
I
my food just seems high. I mean, granted, I do have one low day that's whatever 2350, but 400 calories lower than my training days. But yeah, 2000 doesn't. Yeah, that seems pretty normal to me. Like I know a lot of people get down into like even men like into the 15s and 16s.
It wouldn't surprise me if we get to like 1650, 1750 come 4 or 5 weeks out, something like that, just to like peel that last little bit off. And I've done that before. Hell, I've been as low as like 1,300 for a couple weeks,
That's
which
brutal, man.
that hurt. Yes, that was like eating air pretty much. It was like egg whites with cream of rice for breakfast and like tuna and rice. And
I'm surprised you even had rice. It's not just
yeah,
like meat and veg at that
well,
point.
it probably was just because I was too lazy to make like some potatoes or something like that. But yeah, the veg, there was a lot of vegetables, a lot of just like protein shake with water, just getting
Yeah,
things in the way I could, because at that point the fats were so low too that I couldn't even have too many like whole animal sources of meat either.
yeah, yeah. Well, I guess I also think because I run my protein pretty high, so that would really
Yeah.
like wouldn't really have any room, much room at all for carbs.
Yeah,
But
it was rough. It was very
that's
rough.
low. Yeah, yeah. Once
I
you get down
don't
to like, yeah, once you get down close to like, yeah, that range, that's when I'm like, okay, that's really low.
yeah. 19, I don't think I'd feel it. 18, I would start to feel it because it would probably be, I mean, that's going to be coming from carbs. Fats are already at 45, which is kind of like a basement number for me. Like they might drop a little bit more towards the end, but I don't like to spend too much time below 45. Um, Protein's going to stay the same. So I'm just thinking like in what I eat. I mean, I still have some room to spare. Like I'm eating 2 pieces of toast in the morning, which is not the most like dense food, right? Like I could swap that out for something that's a little bit more calorie friendly. I do have my rice with my lunch, and then there's no carbs other than like leafy greens and basics in my dinner. That's where I have some more room, but I have a big bowl of oats every single night, right? So I could swap the oats for a cream of rice or cream of wheat that might be a little more volume. I could pull the toast. So I still have room to work for sure.
Yeah,
And actually, the protein I'm using, I got like some cheaper stuff just to like fill in with all the protein powder I like to use. And I think it's got like 12 grams of carbs in it. So I'm not being the most like optimal with where I'm spending my carbs right now, but I enjoy the foods I'm eating and I'm not that hungry. So I'm not doing those like crazy things in prep yet just to get the most out of every single macro I can.
Yeah, and I don't think it's necessary to pull out the stops unless you truly like are really like quote unquote needing it. Like if you're doing fine without it, I honestly probably just continue without it. I've done pretty similar myself. Like I really haven't made that many crazy swaps where I'm eating like hyper high volume stuff
Mhm.
or anything like that. Like, yeah, I still got my cream of rice in the morning.
Mhm.
I think it's literally the same meal, same exact meal size, everything as my off season, um, pre-training.
Mhm.
Um, a little bit less carbs in my intra, but still lots of intra carbs, like probably like 50 grams of intra carbs. And then
Mhm.
um, my post-training meals, similar food sources. I pulled out some of the rice, but I'm still eating like my sweet potato with a little bit of honey
Yeah.
and fruit and just smaller
Mhm.
portions. Like
Yeah.
I
And
just haven't seen it as required to get super carried away with volume. Like,
not yet. Yeah. And that's something that you brought up the intra. That's something where I probably could pull some of the carbs that I'm expending in more like non-optimal ways, right? Like barbecue sauce, I probably don't need. I could find like a lower calorie sauce or something for some of my meals and use that for
oh,
intra, which might,
you're using barbecue sauce, so
yeah, I love my
huh.
barbecue sauce. It's tough for me to
Bro, you
give it
gotta get
up.
on that. You gotta get on that G Hughes train.
I know it's just so much more expensive. And I did find this, I found this like
Uh,
Carolina sauce. It's the gold, mustard based. It is like, I put it on my salad and I put it on
Which
my
one?
rice.
From who? Who
I
makes
think
it?
it's, I think we either got it at Wegmans or we got it at Aldi, but it's not like a big brand. I think it's the Aldi brand, just the basic stuff, but it's like a Carolina style barbecue sauce, so it's a little bit
Okay.
thinner and it's a mustard base with vinegar, and I just put it on everything
Okay,
now.
because I actually have a couple. One, I like G Hughes's Carolina. It's their orange. I think it's
Hmm.
Carolina Gold. That's like actually one of my favorites. But I also got like a mustard based one. It wasn't G Hughes. I think it was Noble. It was like a mustard barbecue, and I was, it's not really that great.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, I could pull some of that to use for intra carbs, which would actually probably have like a performance impact. And I'm starting to see performance change a little bit where that's on my mind of like, all right, let's be smart with my food a little bit more.
yeah, yeah. It's probably trickier though, since if your like training days are a little more flexible, like to because you're probably eating kind of trying to evenly space your food throughout the day, right? Because like for
Yeah, but
me, I know like I know I can heavily bias. Like I know which days I'm going to train and when I'm going to train. So I know like when I'm going to bias my heavier meals versus
mhm.
being flexible.
I normally have like a general sense of like when, like what day is going to work, at least at this point right now. It's
Yeah.
more of like a timing of when that lift will get done. But the good thing is like so many of my meals are pretty interchangeable, right? Like the only one that is kind of locked in place, and that's just because it'd be weird for, I mean, I guess I could eat eggs later at night. Like my eggs and toast in the morning, if I wanted to train early in the morning, I could just do something different, like my shake before I trained. So I have something in my
Yeah.
stomach, and then do my oats, which is normally my last meal, as my post training meal, instead of the like rice and chicken as my post training meal, because I don't want to eat rice and chicken at
Yeah.
9 a.m. or whatever it is. So yeah, things are relatively like I can substitute as I need to. And I don't get too tied down to like when I actually eat the meals. I don't think they're that different, really.
Yeah. 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 You've got a slightly different, yeah, approach in that regard. But yeah, it seems like they're relatively similar in terms of macronutrient breakdown.
Yeah,
Pretty close.
the
Some are
oats
probably a little bit high. Yeah, obviously, the egg meal is a little higher in fat, but in
yeah,
toast, it's probably a little lower in carbs than some of the other ones. But
yeah. Yeah, it's pretty much my I mean, I have a protein shake that's literally just right now like milk and protein. skim milk, so there's no fat in it. So a little bit of carbs there and a little bit from the protein as well as the actual protein powder itself. But the two of the meals are pretty identical in macronutrient profile. The oatmeal and the rice and chicken meal are pretty similar. And then it's just my high fat meal I try and keep, and that's the eggs. I try and keep away from training
Yeah.
as much as possible. And then my dinner is how I'll label it, is like a salad with chicken on it and some low fat cheese. So
And
obviously
that meal's low in carbs. You're not going to eat that around training. Yeah.
right. So those are the two that really matter, and anything else can be kind of moved around as needed.
What's your daughter's reaction been to the whole thing?
I don't know if
Anything
she
or not
knows
really?
too
She just
much.
really
I mean,
knows.
she did some posing with me yesterday. I haven't posted
That's
those
fun.
videos. She always wants to come down. She wants to work out with me. She'll ask like what I'm doing when I set up the tripod to like do posing practice. But other than that, I don't think she realizes that I'm eating different because she doesn't eat the exact same meal as my wife either. Like it's not like
Yeah.
she's at the age where we sit down and have the sit down family dinner. Like Allie will have something, I'll have something, and then Bella will have something. Same as Arya. But it's not all
Because you
like
all have
we're
kind of
all
eating
having
different.
tacos together. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, she eats a lot of different foods, so it's not like she's eating dramatically different, but like I mean, sometimes like turkey burgers, she'll eat a turkey burger. So, but no, there haven't really been too many comments, and we're trying to make it very low key where it doesn't seem like daddy's doing this odd thing or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully it just becomes something normal that she sees me do and wants to be involved with. And yeah, that would be my goal. I wouldn't want it to be this like taboo, weird thing. I wouldn't want it to be like understood kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool though. It's cool.
Yeah. But yeah, there's been conversations with me and Allie about like how do we address like food and dieting and like the way I word things just so like the girls don't pick up on, oh, I should be eating this way, I shouldn't be eating that way. These foods are good or bad. I don't want any of that to kind of come across where they like hear me talk like that. And I don't for the most part, but it's just things that you don't really think about until you have someone who is just a sponge and soaks up everything you do and say. And trying to like instill positive relationships with food and training and activity.
And I guess what are you trying to instill then? Because obviously you don't want her eating candy and Snickers bars at every meal, right?
Hmm.
But like, yeah. You probably want
Yeah.
her eating protein at most meals. I wish I knew that better growing up. That was something I acclimated to as a bodybuilder, but it took me a while to adjust to like protein at every meal sort of thing. But
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, here's a good thing, right? As a small child, she doesn't need a ton of protein, but she does have some protein source with every meal.
yeah,
And that could be like dairy based. It could be like a yogurt that she's having, or it could be a turkey burger, chicken with me at dinner, eggs in the morning, whatever. But yeah, she eats. They're easy. They are. We got very lucky. Our kids are not very picky. Honestly, Bella is kind of on the lighter side where we almost have to like force feed her to eat more food and more satiating foods because she will eat fruit and vegetables all day long. Getting her to eat like some like heavy carbs or like the kid will fight us on like chicken tenders and fries. We're like, kid, we're just trying to get calories in you. But she'll eat like a salad and strawberries and blueberries and peppers and any vegetable you put in front of her, cucumber. She'll eat like a whole cucumber. You're like, that's fantastic for your health, but you also need to gain some weight, kid. Like
you
you're
need some
small.
calories. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's funny. Like our fights are like the other day she wouldn't eat pizza. Like she ate all of her fruits and vegetables. We're like, Bella, you have to eat your pizza. And that's just something I never thought I was going to have
it's
to
the
fight with a kid
opposite.
about.
Opposite. You're like you have like vegetable. You have like your plate of Brussels sprouts here and pizza, and it's like you're yelling at the kid to eat the pizza rather than the Brussels sprouts. It's
Yeah,
the other way around.
yeah. It's an odd thing, but yeah, that's how it is. But I mean, she still eats her little treats. She gets some candy when she asks for it if she's behaved at night after dinner. Um, but they eat a whole minimally processed meal 3 times a day and then some snacks. And their snacks are probably, some parents would go and I don't want to get too much into it. There's a whole wave of people like, oh, you have to make your own snacks because the chemicals and this and that. And it's like, all right, chill out. I don't have the money for that nor the time for it. So you're going to eat some animal crackers and a Nutri-Grain bar and you'll be happy about it. Like I'm not making my own goldfish crackers like some of these parents are nowadays.
Is that the thing? I don't even know.
It's a thing. You just wait. Leroy's going to find out here sooner rather than later. There's a whole community of moms and dads that are very much against like any sort of packaged food for their kids. And at the end of the day, if they 80% of their food is whole food and like vegetables and fruits and good foods, I could care less what the 20% is, honestly.
Yeah, that's fair. Especially because the kids need the calories, right?
They do need their calories. Yeah. And I also need to not devote every single waking second of my life to making vegan, non-processed, snacks and dehydrating them and individually packaging them. That garbage. No, I'm just gonna pull something out of a box for you. Love my kids, but there is a line to what I have the availability to do. That's for sure.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think we've rambled on for about 45 minutes here. So
Yeah, we talked prep, we talked glutes, we talked nutrition, mowing, parenting. This was a good one. We covered everything. Yeah.
we covered the spectrum. So
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure I'll be talking with you soon. And for those that made it through our rambling, we appreciate you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in as always. If you like this episode, I can't guarantee there'll be too many more like it, but we are trying to do more talks about ourselves, our lives, our journeys, and they seem to be received well. So if you would agree, leave us a comment in the comment section, like, subscribe, follow, share, all the good stuff, and we will see you guys in the next one.